Okay, so this morning I just wanted to come on and talk a bit about mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I think it is really important for people who have experienced mental health problems to speak up about them, to be more verbal about them, and to sort of do our part to reduce any stigmas that are still out there in the world, which unfortunately there still are. So I just want to talk a bit about what mental health is, why it happens, the causes, the reasons why it happens, things like that, and talk a bit about how you can help your own mental health, how you can support the people around you, and also to share a bit about my journey. So it might get a little bit personal up in here. I think I'm sharing to my personal page as well, so so that's new. In the quest of being, you know, super open and honest and vulnerable, and yeah, wanting to share with you some real home truths and some, you know, some myths about mental health problems and challenges. So let's start off by talking about who does mental health affect, right? So who does mental health affect? And the answer to that question is everyone. So mental health affects everyone. Everyone has a mental health. You have a physical health and you have a mental health. So whether or not you have problems or challenges within your mental health, that's neither here nor there. Everyone has a mental health. And anyone can therefore have challenges, issues, and obstacles within their mental health, just like within their physical health. So very few people, if any, get to live an entire life without having any physical health challenges, you know, without ever having a cold, without ever breaking a bone, without ever having a bruise or a headache or anything like that. And unfortunately, you know, not many people get to live their life without experiencing some kind of a mental health challenge, whether that counts as a mental health condition, you know, a medical condition, that's a different thing. But most people will have something that affects their mental health and, you know, causes it to sort of dip and not be as good as it once was. And the thing about mental health challenges is that they can strike at any time of your life, I've known people to be just perfectly happy, swimming along through life, going about their life, and then suddenly in their 30s or even their 60s, or maybe even later, suddenly out of the blue, they are faced with extreme mental health challenges for the first time in their life. People who've been really solid, really stable, really, you know, just like level-headed, level emotions, and then just suddenly out of the blue, sometimes seemingly for no reason, sometimes for specific reasons, which I'll go into in a minute. So mental health affects everyone, and mental health challenges can strike at any time in life. So it's really good to have a general awareness about them. Even if you've never experienced them yourself, it's good to have a general awareness of them. One, because it's likely that at some point in your life, you will experience some kind of a challenge, and it would be good to get, you know, to get some information before that happens. You know, let's be proactive instead of reactive, prevention over cure, right? And also, it's unlikely that you will go through life without ever knowing someone who has experienced or is experiencing mental health challenges. And it's really good to have that awareness so that we can support the people in our lives. Personally, I feel that my own mental health challenges has helped me really deepen my compassion and giving me the ability to support those around me who have mental health challenges. And it was my own experience through mental health which caused me to follow the journey that I'm currently on as a spiritual life coach. And I'm not saying that, you know, everyone who goes through mental health problems will seek that path, but I probably wouldn't be on that path if it wasn't for my mental health challenges. And it makes me it positions me in a better place to be able to support those around me who also have mental health challenges. So let's look a little into what is mental health. What is mental health? So mental health, like I said before, you've got your physical health and your mental health. So it's everything, your mental health is everything that affects your mental capacity, your emotional state. And a lot of the time it is actually to do with emotions more than it is mental capacity. So it's funny that we call it mental health and not emotional health, but it's everything that isn't physical health, mental and emotional and spiritual even. But it can have, your mental health can have a significant impact on your physical health, as within, so without. So unfortunately, still, even in the 21st century, mental health problems, mental health challenges still have incredible stigmas around them. And it's still majorly prevalent today, even in the Western world, even in the developed world, where so many people have them, it's still stigmatized, it's still brushed under the carpet, it's still something that people think to be ashamed or embarrassed about. And from my journey, I've talked about my mental health very openly for a good chunk of my journey, but the one place in which I will never ever under any circumstances talk about my mental health challenges is in a job interview. Unfortunately for me, I haven't had to go to a job interview or get a job for a few years because I run my own business. But when I did, you know, I had jobs before uni, I had jobs after uni, I had jobs leading up to starting my business, I had jobs at the beginning of my business to sort of help me out as I built my business. And I would never ever consider mentioning my mental health challenges in a job interview, because there is no way that I would trust that wouldn't be taken into consideration when choosing whether or not I was the right person. Even though we have all of these policies in place to say, you know, to not discriminate, you must have a certain number of people of different ethnicities, of different learning and physical disabilities. But I still don't think, we're humans, right? So we still have these biases. And I think mental health problems, mental health challenges still create these biases within us. We think, oh, if we're choosing between someone who's not mentioned any mental health challenges and someone who has mentioned mental health challenges, who's the one that's going to be more reliable turning up to work and getting the job done? You're probably going to think it's the one with no history, or at least no disclosed history of mental health challenges. And that's just biases that people have, and it's sad, but it's still, you know, the world we live in. And you know, there are many causes of mental health challenges from birth or that turn up later in life. And that can be things like puberty and changes in hormone levels. So that could happen, you know, around 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, those ages, you know, as puberty kicks in and hormones begin. Or it could happen later in life, particularly for women around menopause. Perhaps those changes in hormones kick in and lead to some depression, anxiety, things like that. Pregnancy and postnatal depression is a mental health challenge, and that's sometimes a lot to do with the hormones. Now, I'm not an expert in, you know, in hormones or in mental health. I'm just an expert at experiencing mental health challenges in my life and in those close to me. So puberty, changes of hormones, changes of life circumstances, drastic sudden changes as well. You know, they say that moving house can be one of the most stressful things a person goes through. Sudden changes like starting a family and having children, sudden changes like being made redundant or having to leave a job or moving country. I know a few people that have moved country, particularly as a young age, not of their choice, and their parents moved them country, and that really affected some of their mental health and their foundations and stability, because they were suddenly plucked from the place they'd grown up and suddenly they're thrown into a completely different country or culture. So sudden changes, trauma, any trauma of any kind, physical trauma, mental, emotional trauma. Global pandemics are a great example of how things can affect your mental health. So it was a, COVID-19 was a sudden change. It was a massive change in life circumstances for a lot of people. A lot of people stopped being able to work, stopped being able to do all the things that brought them joy, stopped being able to see the people that supported them. It was a major change and quite traumatic for a lot of people. And also some of these events can also be pivotal moments that your soul actually laid out for you before coming into this lifetime. So I'm going to try and stay away from the woo-woo in this life, just because I know that a lot of people, particularly now on my personal page, may not be so into the woo. So I want to keep it quite to mental health, but unfortunately, it is actually, well, not unfortunately, but it is actually inextricably linked to spiritual health as well. So there will be bits of the woo sprinkled in. So as you're probably aware, there are so many different types of mental health challenges: depression, anxiety, OCD, borderline personality, bipolar, schizophrenia. There's dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder. Like I said before, postnatal depression, and so on and so on. There are so many different struggles, and managing these struggles, managing your mental health, is a lifelong journey, right? So your mental health is basically almost like your happiness, and managing your happiness is a lifelong journey. You don't just do some deep work on your mental health and when you're like, my mental health is banging, I'm on a roll, now I can stop looking at my mental health, I'm done, I'm just set for life now. It doesn't really work like that. You have to continuously work at maintaining your mental health, doing the things that keep you stable, that keep you stable, that keep you sane, that keep you happy and healthy. So it is a continual journey. Now, I just want to talk about something called the dark night of the soul. Now, the dark night of the soul is referenced in quite a lot of places throughout history, so I'm not entirely sure where its origin is, but it is referred to in Roman Catholicism as a spiritual crisis on the journey towards the union with God, towards enlightenment. And Eckhart Tolle describes it as a collapse of a perceived meaning in life, or an eruption into your life of a deep sense of meaningless. So Eckhart Tolle describes it as basically a lack of meaning, a lack of, like, what's the point in all of this? What am I doing? What's going on? Why am I even here? That lack of meaning. And that can be caused again by hormonal changes, or it can be by sudden things like the global pandemic. I'm sure a lot of people stopped very early on in the pandemic and went, oh bloody hell, what's the point in all this? What's the meaning of life? What am I doing here? What's going on? And looking for meaning in things. And a good example of that is also when a close loved one dies. That also causes a lot of people to sort of wake up, look around and go, what's the point in this? Looking for meaning in things, in life, in the world around them. And the dark night of the soul can last for hours, days, weeks, months, years, or even decades. Some people probably go through the dark night of the soul for their entire lives. That's a really sad, unfortunate example. And for me, dark night, I've had maybe more than one dark night of my soul, and at least one of them has lasted for years. So, they can go on for years. And dark nights of the soul usually result as an intense push from your soul to find meaning in life. So going through the dark night of the soul usually results in an intense push from your soul to find meaning in your life, which often creates some sort of breakthrough or spiritual awakening. Whether it's like a super spiritual awakening, like you find God, or you find spirit, or you find magic, or whether it's more seen as a breakthrough, or a sort of a more mainstream spiritual awakening, like you just suddenly find lots of meaning in your life, not necessarily in a spiritual sense. But sometimes we have to break down. We have to have a breakdown, a literal breakdown. We have to break down everything we know, everything we love, in order to have the breakthrough, right? So we have to break down to break through. But the keys to getting through this period of the dark night of the soul is that you have to have a willingness to persevere. You have to be willing to do the hard work and to push through your barriers and limitations. That's not to say that you can't have moments where you dwindle, moments where you're just in bed for days, sometimes weeks, you know, in bed, just like, I give up on life, I give up on myself. It's not to say that you can't have those moments, but you then have to pick yourself back up, get out of that bed, and you have to persevere to get to that breakthrough, and that breakthrough is always possible. You have to be willing to do the hard work, to do the deep inner healing work, and to persevere to break through those barriers and limitations. Now, I also wanted to touch on some I've seen a lot of anthropological studies over my life that show that many sort of different, like, tribal communities have, you know, who have elders and sages and wise ones, and you know, the elders that sort of like rule the tribe and the community, because they are the ones that have the direct spiritual connection, and, you know, go off on their vision quests and have their red tents where they, you know, just go off to commune with the spirits. And in so many of these studies, these wise ones, these elders, have usually undergone some sort of spiritual crisis really early on in life, normally around adolescence, around puberty time. And the reason why they get through this and they go from spiritual crisis to elder and wise one is because they were nurtured due to the community living that they were in, and being supported by someone else, someone older, someone more experienced, someone wiser, someone who had been through a similar experience. And they recognize these spiritual crises and they go, okay, you're going through a spiritual crisis. I know how to deal with this because I've been through this myself and I've helped other people through this. Come with me, I will help you through it. Whereas in more of these of our Western countries, where we're not living communally anymore, you know, we're all separate in our separate little houses, in our separate little box flats, or even in our massive mansions, but we're separate, we're living separately. So we don't have that community input to raising the next generation. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't been able to have that nurtured experience from spiritual crisis to spiritual awakening, and had, you know, our hand held during that experience. So for me, I had a absolute fairy tale childhood. I was very, very fortunate, and I have so much gratitude for the childhood that I had. You know, I grew up with a loving parents and family. We never really struggled that much for money. We went on holidays and we frolicked in the woods, and my parents had time for me, and I had a brother, and, you know, it was a real fairy tale childhood. That was until I was about 12 years old, until puberty kicked in, and I found the transition from primary school to secondary school and the hormonal changes during that time, I found very difficult. And I went from being a very big fish in a very little pond to a very little fish in a very big pond. So in primary school, I was top of my class for pretty much everything, whether it was sport, art, or maths and English and science. I was the top of my class for everything. I was also really good at dance and acting and all of that kind of stuff, and speaking. So I was a very big fish in a very little pond, and life was good for me. then through this transition into adolescence, into secondary school, I didn't really fit in very well in secondary school. A story very similar to a lot of other people. I didn't fit in. I felt a bit like an outcast. I was bullied. I was very confused about what was going on in life. I ended up self-harming from the age of 12 until 17. And I even had a few suicide attempts as well between the ages of 15 and 17. And this journey was very, very pivotal for the next part of my life, for the business, for the development that I went through that led me towards the person I am today. But my adolescence was very, very difficult. It was covered in self-harm, suicide attempts, sexual trauma. I even lived in an adolescent inpatient unit for a short while, where I received, sort of almost 24/7 care for my mental health. And I never felt so alone, because I didn't feel like anyone understood what I was going through. I didn't even understand what I was going through. And you get all those typical statements like, oh, you just need to be grateful for what you have, and oh, you just need to learn to love yourself. Like, it was so easy, like it was a click of a finger to just be like, okay, cool, thank you so much for that. I will just love myself now and be filled with gratitude. I am literally sitting at the bottom of a well, surrounded by darkness, not wanting to even be alive anymore. Like, don't come at me with your gratitude and your self-love. Like, there is nothing here to receive that. Like, I could not receive anything like that. I couldn't receive perspective shifts. I couldn't receive any kind of joy. I couldn't receive any kind of love, let alone self-love. No gratitude, like absolutely no gratitude. Negative beyond negative. And when you're in that place, when you're in that extreme darkness, like, things like that don't reach you. You have to start off small, And one of the things that I learned from my experience that I now love to be able to offer other people is that when I see other people in darkness, I just join them. I join them in the darkness, but without myself becoming dark. So I stay light, I stay in my lightness, but I join them in the dark. I don't try and pull them out of the darkness. Like, I don't try and be their savior. I don't try and rescue them. I just join them. I don't join them in their misery by going like, oh my God, yeah, it's just so shit. Why don't you just kill yourself? Like, there's no point, not that kind of joining them, just joining them like, yeah, this really sucks. Like, this must hurt a lot, seeing and witnessing their pain. This must really suck ass. So I'm just gonna sit here and be with you, just gonna sit here and be with you in this silence, in this pain. I'm just gonna be here. I'm not gonna absorb your pain. I'm not gonna absorb your darkness. I'm still gonna be me, but I'm gonna witness you, and I'm gonna hold space for you in this. So that's what people need when they're in extreme darkness. When they're in sort of mild to moderate, mental health challenges, that's perhaps when they're a bit more open and available for the words like the gratitude and the self-love and the positive words of affirmation. But really down in the deep darkness, ain't nobody got time for self-love and gratitude when they just want to kill themselves. Like, it's a mismatch, right? It's a mismatch. You can't go into the darkness with the high vibes of love and gratitude and stuff like that. You have to come in a bit lower. Yeah, a bit lower. It's too high for them to reach. So you've got to come in a bit lower, just with a tiny bit of hope, right? A tiny bit of love, a tiny bit of these things, and just like incrementally build their way back up. So some of the ways in which I incrementally took myself out of this darkness was one, through exploration of who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what works for me, what brings me joy, what brings me purpose, what brings me meaning, experimenting with all of life to sort of help figure out what worked and what didn't. And then based on these findings, creating some kind of routine and structure to my day, to my week, to my life, introducing spiritual practices as well, starting off with things like gentle meditation, yoga, practices like that, and then building them up from there. But having some kind of structure and routine, waking up at the same times every day, going to bed at the same times every day, eating, you know, at meal times. These might not be things that are suitable for you, but this is what worked for me and what works for the general person, is having a routine. Maybe maybe some people are better, you know, waking up early and going to bed early, and maybe some people just need to shift that slightly later because they're more night owls. But having that routine and that structure really helps to keep someone going and keep someone focused, because when you're in the extreme darkness and you have no routine or structure, it's just nothing. It's just endless darkness. Like, hello, is there anybody out there? Bring a bit of structure back to it, and it helps to sort of make space for the healthier things in life. So find the things that work for you, and, you know, start implementing them and bringing this sort of routine and structure to your day. Having quality friends as well. Forget quantity of friends. Quality friends. Just one quality friend that you can be completely vulnerable with, that you can share your secrets with, that you can share your pain with, that can hold space for you in that can see you, hear you, feel you. One quality friend. All it takes to start to come out of that, just one. And then also moving into seeking some more meaning and purpose in my life. That was what really sort of bringing the meaning back, bringing the purpose back, and having things to live for, having friends to live for, having meaning and purpose to live for. I had a great job a few years after, you know, the period that I'm talking about. That really helped. Went to uni before that. That gave me some meaning, some purpose and structure. So exploration, experimentation, routine, structure, spiritual practice, quality friends, meaning and purpose. Those are great places to start for, you know, coming out of that dark place. And, you know, the truth behind mental health challenges is often not really a medical one. It's often, if you've heard the term empaths are just really sensitive people who can feel other people's emotions really highly. And if you're an empath and you don't know it, or you don't know how to control it, and you're feeling everyone's emotions, that can be really overwhelming. And that can lead to people looking like they're actually in psychosis, but they're actually just highly sensitive, energetically sensitive beings who either don't know it or don't know how to control it. Most mental health challenges will also stem from a lack of self-love and self-worth and self-acceptance. But as I said earlier, when you're in extreme darkness, like self-love is probably not something you can get to. You might need a little bit of like self-care, you know, to step up before you can reach the self-love. And then, as Eckhart Tolle mentioned in the definition I mentioned earlier, and what I mentioned in my own personal journey, is a lack of purpose and meaning can also be the truth behind a lot of depression, at least. Perhaps not some, you know, borderline bipolar, schizophrenia, DID, perhaps not behind those, but a lack of purpose and meaning can often be one of the main causes of depression, at the very least. And just not having anything to hold on to, One of the visuals I liked for my experience was the feeling that I was at the bottom of this pit, so far down that I couldn't even see the light above. So dark, so dark. As soon as I found a tiny bit of meaning and purpose in my life, it was like someone threw me a rope, someone threw me a lifeline, and I could just like hold on to that lifeline, knowing that there was like something that could bring me out of it. Yeah. Slowly pulling myself up, then eventually there's some light, slowly coming further, more and more light, a person maybe on the end of the rope there to support me, to love me. So some simple steps, or maybe not so simple, but here are some steps to help you overcome at least depression and anxiety. That's my biggest experience with depression, anxiety, and sort of borderline bipolar disorders, not borderline personality disorder, but borderline into bipolar. So when someone is in severe mental health, severe depression crisis, that's you or someone around you. If that's you, reach out for help and find support. If you know someone who's in that place, reach out and tell them that you're here. Tell them that you're here, and you're here to support them or to help them find the right support. Even if it's just one trusted quality friend or one health professional that you can resonate with. Another thing you can do is be kind and gentle to yourself. We're not ready for self-love yet, that's cool. First step, just be kind and gentle to yourself. Speak and treat yourself the way you would a child, you know. You wouldn't expect a really young child to take on the world. So don't expect it of yourself or of someone close to you if they're in severe mental health crisis. Next step you can take to build on that is self-care. Look after yourself. Are you eating enough? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? When I am in, whether it's a severe mental health crisis or just a bit of one, sleep is so important to me. If I have anything less than 8 or 9 hours sleep, I'm an emotional wreck. Right, when I'm loving life and I'm happy, I can get away with 6-7 hours and I'm fine because my energy and my vibes are high. But if I'm in crisis, I need to sleep. I just need to sleep. My brain needs to turn off. My body and my brain needs to do some healing while I'm asleep. And I need a lot of water. So food, water, and sleep. And when you're in severe crisis, don't worry about the quality of food, just eat the goddamn food, right? Just eat food, whatever you can. It doesn't matter if it's a salad or fast food, if it's a cake or some fruit, doesn't matter, just eat the food. Later on, when you're a bit more able, then we look at good quality food, because good quality food is going to support your mental health majorly. But for the bare minimum, just need to eat. For quite a lot of my mental health challenges, I just didn't eat. Just didn't want to eat because I didn't want to eat, didn't even want to be alive. So why am I going to feed my body with the things that keep me alive? But then I learned that that I had to. I did want to be alive. I did want to experience all the glorious things that life had to offer me. So eat, drink, and sleep. Again, experimentation. Figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. This will do wonders for building up the practices that will really support your mental health, and then implementing that structure and routine, putting into the practices and the tools that work for you, that support you. These are the really good tools for severe mental health, right? Reaching out for help, finding support, being kind and gentle to yourself, looking after yourself, eating, drinking and sleeping enough, experimentation, structure and routine. They're all great things to implement when you're in severe crisis. When we're in the more mild to moderate mental health crisis, that's when we can do things like look into the self-love, get really, really selfish, think about all the things that you need and realize, you know, it's time to rescue your own damn self. You know, no one else is coming to rescue you. You need to step up and rescue yourself. I call it being your own shiro, mainly because I work with women. So not hero, be your own shiro. Bringing in some gratitude, you know, being grateful for the small joys in your life and what you do have. This is super hard when you're in severe mental health crisis, but it's quite important to bring in during mild to moderate mental health challenges, because gratitude can really help transform your perspective. And when we're in this mild to moderate region, we are more susceptible to a change in perspective. And a change in perspective can be the difference between glass half full and glass half empty. So even, you know, for most people living in, you know, the developed world, at the very least, you know, be grateful for the home you have, the walls, the bed you sleep in, the duvet that keeps you warm. Be grateful for the taps that you don't have to walk to the well and carry the water back for miles. Be grateful that you have electricity, so you can just turn a light on and not use candles and strain your eyes. Be grateful for your oven and the fact that you can just like click and you have fire, and you don't have to build a fire and like boil the water instead of the kettle. You'd be grateful for your kettle. Be grateful for all of those little things. Be grateful for the clothes you have. Be grateful for the health that you do have, and just be grateful for all the things you do have. Even if you don't have some of those things that I mentioned, you will have some of them, and you will have other things to be grateful for. And bringing attention to these areas of things that you're grateful for will help you see more of the things you're grateful for. And then it's about focusing on the positives instead of the negatives anymore. And then the third thing is to start looking for more meaning in your life. So follow the joy, follow the people that light you up, the quality people in your life that you love spending time with. Follow the places that you love living. Like, your physical environment can have a real big impact on your mental health. If you're living in the city and you just want to be like frolicking around the woodlands in the countryside, move to the countryside, dude. Like, get going, move to the countryside. Likewise, if you're in like a boring village and you're so bored out of your mind and you just want to be in the hustle bustle of the city, get moving. Like, go start putting into motions the process of moving. Look for jobs, look for a city you want to live in, look for jobs there, apply for jobs, look for homes, etc., etc. Get that ball rolling towards changing that physical environment. And changing your physical environment could just be just as simple as buying a few plants for your home, because it makes you feel nice about having the nature indoors, right? There's little things you can do, and big drastic measures like moving country even. Start following the activities that bring you joy, you know, sports that bring you joy, the creative activities that bring you joy. Anything like that, the instruments, the learning languages, anything like that brings you joy. Start looking for more meaning, more purpose, and following the joy, and filling your life with more high vibe things that really fill you up, that really lift you up. And these are all key things that I used to help manage my mental health challenges. So I'm 31 now. So I've been dealing with my mental health challenges for nearly 20 years. For 10 years of that, I wasn't doing a very good job. But that's okay. I was learning, I was experimenting, I was growing. But for the last 10 years, I've been doing a pretty banging job at managing my mental health, keeping myself stable, implementing all the practices that I know help support me, the routines, the sleeping, the eating, the people that light me up, the activities that light me up, the places that light me up, having the meaning and the purpose. And for any of you that have known me for a while, you know that I'm absolutely obsessed with self-love. I have a program on self-love. I'm also writing a book on self-love. So self-love is really the foundation of, again, if you're in severe crisis, probably not going to help you, still worth a try. If you're willing, it's definitely worth a try. If you're like completely like, no, self-love isn't going to work for me, go on to the more gentle approach, like just taking care of yourself a bit. But if you're ready to do the hard work, if you're ready to get out of that slump, to get out of that darkness, to move on from your dark night of the soul and really start embracing good, joyful, happy life, then self-love is your foundation. Self-love is your foundation, and then you can move on to finding more meaning and purpose in your life. And these are the foundations of my business: self-love and purpose, and all the magic in between. That is literally my business: self-love, purpose, all the magic in between. So, you know, if you're having mental health challenges, please reach out for support around you. If there's no one around you, join. If you're not in my Facebook group, join my Facebook group, reach out, book a discovery call with me. I offer a free 30-minute discovery call to discuss your challenges, what's going on for you, look into your dreams, see how best I can support you. If I can't support you, I'll try and help find a person that can support you. That is my purpose. My purpose is to help you find your purpose. My purpose is to help you love yourself and love your life. That is my purpose. So if I'm doing that, then like my mental health is all good. So let me help you, or find someone else that can help you. But take those steps. And if you're not in crisis, but you see people around you that are, reach out to them and say, hey, dude, I'm here for you. Like, I'll make time for you. Like, do you want to call? Do you want a Zoom coffee? Do you want to go for an actual coffee? Do you want to go for a walk? Like, let's hang out. Let's catch up. Like, I'm here for you. I'll listen to you. I'll hold space for you. If you just want to rant, if you just want to moan, like, I have some friends that our relationship is allows space for us to just leave voice notes for each other, just being like, something happened and it really sucks. And the other person's like, oh my God, I'm really sorry. That really sucks. That sounds really shitty. You know, and then we just, you know, back and forth voice notes, just witnessing the shittiness, instead of being like, I think you need to be really grateful for the things in your life. No, like, that sucks. I'm acknowledging that that sucks, and I don't want to, you know, bypass the fact that that sucks for you. So witness people's suckiness and the pain they're in, and then just, what do you need? What do you need? Don't try and be a psychic. Don't try and rescue people. Just ask them, what do you need? What do you need? I'm here for you. So I hope that some of this is landing. I hope that some of this has been useful for anyone watching. And if you have any questions or any stories to share or anything, any comments at all, pop them in the comments. I'd love to hear different perspectives and stories. And I just want anyone who is in crisis at the moment, I just want you to know it's totally possible for you to love yourself and love your life again. It is totally possible. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. Just keep crawling. If that's all you can do is crawl, or take one step every day or one step every month, just keep moving. Just keep going. Be gentle on yourself. Be kind to yourself. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. Like, I am living proof of 10 years of dark night of the soul to 10 years of living a great life full of love, meaning, purpose, adventure. And if you need some extra support, reach out to those around you or reach out to me. I'm here for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and much love and infinite blessings from me. And I'll catch you around sometime. Bye.